Hi, everyone, and welcome to Simple Marketing Academy. This is where small business owners, entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs come to learn very simple, cost-effective marketing techniques so they can gain more clients, make more sales, increase their revenue, and grow their business. My name is Jill Fox, and I am the co-owner of Fox Social Media. Along with my son, Tanner J. Fox, we help businesses, practices, and brands to market, advertise, and grow online. And we've been doing this since 2010. So happy to have both the Simple Marketing Academy podcast and the Simple Marketing Academy show on YouTube so that we can help all of you as well. So let's get started.
In this video, we're going to be diving deep into how these social media algorithms actually work and how you can take advantage of the ways they work in order to have your content get pushed and get a lot more views. Now, when it comes to social media algorithms, there's kind of the main way you need to think about it is from the platform side of view. The platform's goal as a business, as all businesses, is to make as much money as possible. And they make money by showing people ads on their platforms. So in order to make more money from those ads, they need to keep people on the platform as long as possible so they can show them the optimal and most amount of ads. Now, obviously, the goal isn't just the most amount of ads in a short period of time. They want the person long on the platform over extended periods of time as well so they can show them those ads. And the way that they're able to do this, keep someone on the platform as long as possible, is by consistently showing them the best content that's relevant to them and is entertaining and interesting to them as well. So that's kind of the frame of reference we want going into understanding the algorithm. So there's about 5 main steps when it comes to how algorithms on social media test content. And I'll preface this by saying they're all slightly different and do it slightly different ways, but almost all of them have that same goal and use a lot of the same signals about how to categorize content or push content and what's performing well to keep people on the platform as long as possible. So these should be relevant to every platform. So first step is the algorithm determines what the content is about, and it will categorize that content, say, hey, this content is about sports or football. And then step 2, it will define what we call audience buckets, who may be interested in those categories. And then it will, step 3, show that content to a small number of viewers in those different buckets, we'll call them, including people in your current following. Step 4 will be to analyze the performance of the content in each bucket. And if it's performing other content, if it's outperforming other content, then it will push that content to more people in that bucket and other buckets as well because it's performing well. And then it will repeat that cycle until that content isn't outperforming other kind of competitor content. So let's jump into step 1 here. Step 1, it needs to determine what the content is about. So the algorithm will look at a few different things to know what your content's about. So it'll look at words in your title or your caption, your description, whatever platform you're on. It knows what you're typing. It'll say, hey, it looks like they're talking about football, sports. That will be the example I'll use today. So I'm going to show this to people I think are interested in that. They know a lot about their audience and who likes certain topics, what content performs well. So they need to categorize this content to know who to push it to. They'll also look at things like hashtags or keywords. Hashtags will also tell them, hey, I think the content's probably about this. And if you have a bunch of wonky or weird hashtags in there or keywords if you're on YouTube, then it might throw it off a little bit. That's why we want to keep hashtags that are relevant to our content. It also can read the text on the screen of an image or a video, even if you're not editing the content in their native editing tool. If there is visual content or words on the screen, it can read those and it will use that information as well to help categorize the content. What you're saying in the video also matters. So the transcription, what's being said in the video, is also used to help determine what the content is about. Another factor that may be relevant for you is your location. If you have a location added on, let's say, Instagram, then it will probably take that into account and use that to show it to a bucket of people. Again, we'll call them buckets, a bucket of people who are around that location. And lastly, some platforms like YouTube will look at what content these people have interacted with before or what content you've posted in the past, and that will help it also determine what the content is about. So that's step one. It will really figure out what your content's about. Once it does that, it will create what I call an audience bucket or buckets. And these are just groups of interests or people that fit a certain kind of definition. So for example, we have our content at the top here. And then in the green, we have 5 different buckets. We have, let's say we're using a location on this post. We have the location of posts. So I want to show it to people who are, let's just say, in the Dallas, Texas area. I'll show it to people in Dallas. I have bucket number 2. I'm going to say I know this content. It's people who follow a similar account. So people who are interacting with, let's say, again, I'm going to use football as the example, with other accounts that post a lot about football. I'm going to see who follows a similar account and maybe try showing them some of that content of yours. Bucket number 3 is going to be probably the main buckets that you think of, which will be content categories. So this can be main categories with a bunch of subcategories in there, and there's probably thousands of these. But for example, let's say we have just 3 main categories for this example. We have outdoors with some subcategories. We have sports with some subcategories like football, baseball, cheer. And then we have another category that's somewhat related, which is health and wellness. And you can see the subcategories there as well. So we'll test content based off of what it thinks the content's about in step 1 and test these different categories as well. Then you have bucket number 4, which is people who look like your current followers. This is another group of people they like to test content to. Your own current followers is the final bucket. So these are all different groups of people they test content to. And usually most social medias will test content with your current followers first, see how it performs. If it performs well, then they push it to more people. But you'll usually get some other buckets to test the content, but a lot will normally be those current followers or any people they think look like your current audience as well. So these are kind of all the different audience buckets they can give content to test. And then when we move to test 3, it's sending content to that piece of content, some views to a couple people in each bucket to test and see how it performs. Once they get the results back, they say, we tested this, it's performing better than other content. Then they'll either push it more, or if it's performing worse, then it will stop really being pushed at all. So this is the area where performance is measured, and it's a chance for the algorithm to understand which buckets are performing better and start optimizing that way. So let's say these 3 category buckets we have in the center, it sees, oh, sports are performing great, but that outdoors category did terrible. Maybe I'm going to push it towards a little more on the sports side and try some of these other subcategories or things more relevant towards sports, less relevant towards outdoors, depending on the performance. So that's step 3. Step 4 is where it will analyze the actual performance. So after showing it to these groups in each bucket of users, algorithm will analyze the performance of the video or the content. And this is done by a couple different factors in here. I should say more than a couple, but things like your watch time, the engagement, how people are interacting with it. Are people leaving the platform right after viewing it? YouTube does that pretty heavily. I don't think a lot of the other social medias do. So what someone does after watching your content matters for YouTube. And there's a lot of different factors with these analytics and on the back end, but it really analyzes that content to know what it should push to. It'll rank that content with other competitor content in that bucket and say, hey, we have better content to push other than this. We have enough. So we're not going to push this one. We're going to push this content because we know it's performing better, which shows that people are more interested. It might be more relevant or entertaining as well. And then the final step is it will just continually repeat that process of testing. And if, again, you'll keep moving up if you're doing better, getting more and more views, and that's how content goes viral. And then once you stop outperforming that other content in there, and again, there's a lot of factors. No one knows every single factor that goes into it, but things like the watch time, the engagement rate, if they follow you, if they're rewatching the same content, all these different things go into this algorithm, but it will keep repeating until the content either is kind of put on the back burner or it keeps getting pushed and gets more and more views. So that's really how the social media algorithms work in general, and really how it will categorize that content and then test it, and why it's important to have keywords that are relevant, not misuse hashtags, because categorizing that content is a very important first step before it tests that content. Because if you put a bunch of hashtags about fashion and then you do a post about football, it's probably not going to perform well and then not get pushed, even if the content's great, because it's being shown to the wrong audience. So that first step of categorizing your content properly and letting the algorithm know what it's about is very important. So that's it for this video on the algorithms. Need extra help with your marketing or social media? Well, utilize our free marketing resources like our social media blueprint ebook or our 150 social media post ideas. You can grab these free resources in the description below.
If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at foxsocialmedia.com. On our website, you'll find that we have done-for-you services through Fox Social Media, where we help businesses, practices, and brands to market, advertise, and grow online. And we've been doing this since 2010. This is a done-for-you service. We also have services for very small business owners, entrepreneurs, and solopreneurs who can't afford done-for-you services. And this is a very inexpensive program called Simple Marketing Support, where we're there to teach you, support you, and answer your questions. You can find more about all of our services if you go to foxsocialmedia.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.